Uber is running a business and charging us, customers, little more than 40% of its running costs. So Uber charges us 40% of what it costs us to take that trip. That sounds incredibly economically unsustainable. So why would a company be doing that? Even though millions or billions are being pumped into this company, it's spending more than it's receiving in investment and charging us only 40% of what it costs them to take a journey from A to B. Well, this is otherwise known as loss leader. This is a loss leader. Their approach, their business model is to lead with losses so that they can cut out the competition. And this is where black cab drivers come in. This is where other minicab firms come in, because black cab drivers have a legitimate gripe to say, well, they're cheaper than us, so people are going, they are flocking to Uber. That's true. People are flocking to Uber. I use both sometimes, but even I know that Uber is a lot cheaper than black cabs. Well, how they're able to do that is that they are loss leading. They're charging me only 40% of the cost for that journey. Now, of course, what's the purpose economically to engage in loss leading when you're a company? It's to wipe out your competition. The day will come when there are no black cabs to speak of, when other firms have been knocked off the competition. And when that happens, it's the only reason a firm does things like loss leading. When that happens, then prices will spike. You'll add 60% because that's the 60% that's missing from the 40% that they're charging us. They're charging us only 40% of what it costs them to take us from A to B. So that 60% will be whacked onto the prices only when there's no more competition left. What does that mean for the consumer? It means when there's no more competition left, we've got no one else to go to when that 60% whopping great price hike hits, because there will be no more black cabs. We will have to pay the full price. That's the strategy. That's why companies loss lead. Are you happy with that? Does that make you comfortable? If you're a black cab, how does that make you feel? Well, you wouldn't be a black cab if you're a black cab driver. How does that make you feel? But even as a consumer, even as somebody who takes minicabs occasionally or regularly, or even normal ordinary taxis, not even black cabs, how does it make you feel that it could be the case that one company knocks off all this competition, especially when it comes to the cabbies, the black cabs in London, because they have what's known as the knowledge? I imagine other cities do too, like Manchester and Liverpool, but I know London is where I live. They have this thing called the knowledge, whereby they memorize every single street in this great city called London. They literally memorize every single side alley. It takes them around 5 years, 6 years to pass that test. Now that is what you call serious learning. It's like a graduation, a university degree. But they could be wiped out if Uber is undercutting them. But it can afford to undercut them because these billionaire investors in Silicon Valley, who don't care about the black cab industry in London, are throwing billions into this company so that it can knock out all its competition. Then you've got the other problem, which is about the drivers. Uber recently lost a case, and the tribunal that rejected Uber's case called their claim, quote, faintly ridiculous. Their claim was that their drivers couldn't be classed as employees. That was thrown out. It was called faintly ridiculous because it was decided that, of course, drivers are employees and therefore have all the rights that employees deserve. Now, on top of all of that, if you add what I've just said to this next factor, which is the tax base, the country can't even take tax from this company because it's being a tech-based company like Google, like Amazon. If you remember all those scandals in the past couple of years where those companies, Starbucks, those big American companies, were found not to be paying their fair share of tax. Well, Uber will come under the same bracket. So are we being scammed? Is Uber and other tech companies, are they gaming the system with their loss leader approach and not paying the taxes, and as a result wiping out competition in this country while the country doesn't gain any tax revenues from their business? The consumer thinks we're happy because we're only paying 40% of what that trip really does cost us, but then once that competition is wiped out, we'll have no choice. We'll be hit by that whopping 60% price hike because, of course, Uber's going to want to pay their investors back and make their money back. Are we being gamed?